This program is brought to you by Emory University.
I have like the best job ever. My editor has cracked down on me though. He said that I have to be in by noon. So I get in at noon, and of course the first thing I do is I have lunch. And then as I'm having lunch, to the naked eye, it doesn't look like I'm doing much, because I'm really not doing much. I'm just sitting there and I'm sort of writing down topics, and I'm reading the AJC and the New York Times and online on various news internet sites, and I'm on eBay. And what I'm doing is I'm waiting. We're talking about creativity. The way I work is I'm a great procrastinator. So every day I get in and I'm kind of just, oh, this is great. I'm taking in stuff. And then around 3 o'clock, I start to get a little bit nervous because my deadline is 5:30. And so I start to get nervous. And I sort of liken it to a runner's high. When someone runs, they'll at a certain point, sometimes they start feeling kind of like good. And so around 3 o'clock, I sort of start getting sort of a silliness high, and I'm sort of fully woken up. And so I've been procrastinating, and that procrastination has led me to the next stage of the process, and that is panic. Because I've wasted so much time screwing around that now I have to come up with something quickly. But that's what Cindy was talking about. The cartoons that I've been doing, for 24 years, 5 days a week. That's what sparks my creativity, is knowing, is the panic that I feel knowing I've got a deadline. And so what I do is I've got a couple people at the paper that are very honest with me. One of them is a guy named Jay Bookman, who's the columnist, one of the great columnists. He's so smart, and he is so honest with me. And so normally around 3:15 or so, I'll come up with a couple of ideas, and I'll show them to Jay. And Jay is famous for looking at me and just saying, "No, those aren't good." But see, I love that. I love the rejection, and that's another weird part of my creative process, because that rejection fuels me, and it kind of ticks me off. And no, I don't get ticked off at Jay. I get ticked off that I haven't come up with something that's worthy. So I get back to my office, and that rejection combined with the panic focuses me even more. And so oftentimes it'll go up to like 5, or even my deadline 5:30, where I'm coming up with ideas and getting them rejected. And what's so weird is it'll be like 5:30 and I won't have an idea. And I'm thinking to myself, man, my wife sure has it easy at home with those 4 kids. And then I think, I can't wait for 15 minutes from now, because it's like I know that there's this mountain that I'll in 15 minutes or so I'll be over it and I'll have an idea. But it's oftentimes it's painful coming up with something. It's just I'm just panicked, and I'm and I don't want to tick off my editor by being late, or all the people that put the paper together. There's a certain timetable, and I don't want to make anyone have to wait. And but I've always come up with something. I'll show you a couple here. Mondays are always my very worst day, because the news has sort of stopped for the week, and so I'll come up with something that I'll just struggle all day, and I haven't been thinking about it on the weekends. And of course, I can't find one that I did on Monday, but I'll find it later. Here it is. Okay, so this is so Monday. There just wasn't that much going on, and we're sort of in a political situation where, sometimes there's not that much dynamics going on. I mean, right now, and this is my opinion, but the Republican Party is sort of stuck. and they're trying to rebrand themselves, but they can't. But they're not able to rebrand themselves because their base won't let them. But they want to try and reach out to Latinos and to women and to gays, but they can't because they'll piss off their base. And so I've done and then they want to keep the base happy so that whatever Obama proposes, they're against it, even if they were for it previously. So we're just sort of stuck in this like bad situation, and it's sort of. And I've done plenty of cartoons, which I'll show you some of the predicament that the country and the GOP is in. But so it was sort of that same dynamic. So I was thinking, what can I do? So I eventually just ended up. I've already done a cartoon on this, but I just did something on the cheating scandal. The APS cheating scandal, and saying, okay, who erased guilty, wrote in not guilty. So I was just so happy that I came up with that, and I had done a bunch of different different approaches to that, and then I just eventually got the words, less words, and so I just whipped that out very quickly, and then. This is in today's paper. So I was doing this yesterday, and it's hard for me because I personally really like Obama, and he's so comfortable in his own skin. Just he's so relaxed. I mean, like he gets on a plane or off a plane. He's just like that. He's just cool. Whereas like Bush, George W. Bush was always trying to pretend he was a cowboy. So he was like, he'd walk like that, and there was just something to me that just seemed unreal about him, and I don't get that with Obama. I think Obama's just laid back, but that's not good for a cartoonist because you want someone to be kind of a pain. You want someone to be inauthentic, so it's made it hard. And then because we're so polarized, I get emails all the time, people saying, "Why don't you ever do anything on Obama?" Well, this one's kind of on Obama. It is on Obama, and it's. He's talking about some real cuts to Social Security. Gosh, should I screw this up?
No, I think it'll focus itself.
Oh, that's cool. Isn't that amazing? Okay, so he's since Republicans want your neck, I figured, well, let's compromise. So he's, so now what I do to save time is when I'm doing a drawing like this, I don't pencil anything in first. Here's the rough sketch that I did for this, and you see the wording is, so I told Republicans, no way I'm letting your head be chopped. I changed that caption to this one, since the Republicans want your neck, I figured let's compromise. So I changed it up a little bit, but when it came to doing the final drawing, I showed this one to my editor. I left this with my editor so they can see it. And then when I went to draw it, I just ink right on the page, and so what I do is I go to Google and I Googled images of Obama, and I wrote Obama side view, and then so I get all these side views of Obama, and then so I just draw it right. Look, I don't even sit at a drawing table. I'm just sitting at my computer, drawing it, looking at a photo of him. So and you should have seen this drawing. Normally there's whiteout in all my drawings because I don't pencil anything, but this one was full of whiteout. I mean, all over. And so what I'm doing is I have this whiteout pen and I'm whiting out, and I get it. I get it all over my hands and everywhere. But I got that one done. I've done a lot of cartoons this year on the NRA. Because they are so frustrating. Even the NRA's members don't agree with the NRA's leadership. And I just brought this one. I didn't even end up doing this cartoon, but this is the NRA approved crossing guard. He's telling the driver, press the accelerator, I dare you. He's got his weapon. Because they were talking about guns in schools and all that kind of stuff. Here's another one I did recently. This is based on Charlton Heston saying he'll have to pull the gun from his cold dead hands. He's got a politician yell to pry him from my cold dead hands. Here's a guy saying he hunts with assault weapons. Oh, thanks. This one I did, Wayne LaPierre is the guy, and so this is a multi-panel one. In the first panel, he's at the airport and he's showing his ID. He's going to get his luggage X-rayed. The next panel, he's having to remove his shoes, and then he's going through the full body scanner. Then he gets on the plane and he's saying, "I'm traveling to D.C. to argue against background checks." This one, I just had fun. I just had fun drawing this because, this was based on the kind of iconic photograph of Obama in the Situation Room with his team when they were watching the video of the SEALs going in to take down Bin Laden. So I drew this, and it's you see instead it's Mitt Romney's in the Situation Room, and it's the caption is President Romney and his team viewing live video of raid on Big Bird's compound. That sort of became an issue in the campaign, getting rid of Big Bird. Speaking of the campaign, I miss this guy. I'm sure he'll be back in the next one. But the guy saying 97% question whether your hair was born in this country. Now we're discussing the creative process. So this is a series of cartoons that I was trying to come up with something. George W. Bush's presidential library is opening like the 24th or the 25th, and Obama is going to go to it as well as Carter and all the living ex-presidents. So I was trying to think, what could I do? So I do George. So that was my first idea, and I didn't go with that one. And so I kept thinking about it, and then I thought, well, what would be funny? What would his presidential library be made out of? And so my little couple that I always draw, she's saying they nearly completed the George W. Bush presidential library, and you see it's made out of Legos. So, but I didn't do that one. So then I came up with an idea that I like this idea, but I had a little nagging problem with it, so I brought it home and I asked my wife what she thought, and I'll tell you what her answer was and confirm my thought. It's the grand opening of the library, and someone inside is saying, "Clean up on aisle 3, 5, 7." And Obama's thinking to himself, "No wonder I was invited." Now, so my wife said, I like that, but people are going to think because Obama's African American, he's like the custodian. And I'd even thought, I was thinking about that as I was coming up with it, because I was going to have him like with a broom and stuff. I thought, no, that's too custodian-like. But when she said that, I thought, and here's the thing, that what Obama has really done has really made it easier. He's taken, in many ways, the racial component out of humor. It's hard for me to describe, but in this case, I think my wife was right, because I don't want people to think that I see him as a custodian, even though that's what he's in office doing, cleaning up Bush's messes, basically. So then I sort of wandered off, and I don't know what I was thinking about here, but this was for the Iraq 10 war anniversary, and the stormtroopers are there, and Darth Vader saying, "I heard that. Which of you called me Dick Cheney?" So here's the final George W. Bush Presidential Library cartoon I did. It's a team of inspectors is entered to find any actual books. So see, every day is like this, though. It's like a process for you start out and then you come up with something that Jay Bookman says stinks. And then I just keep coming up with stuff, and Here's again, I don't criticize Obama too much, but this was a cartoon that I did recently. I have a dream. I have a drone. Sometimes it angers people when I put Jesus in a cartoon, or I do. I'm nominally Catholic, and I've done plenty. As I'll show you, I've done plenty of cartoons on the Catholic Church's problems, scandals, and boy, Catholics get so ticked off at me. And when I go to Mass, I sort of try to avoid the Monsignor's eyes after I've done it. This was, remember about 6 months ago, they found an ancient papyrus that may have mentioned Jesus' wife. Yeah. So that was just sort of a fun thing. Now, as Sydney said, sometimes cartoons can't always be humorous. It really depends on the issue. And what I try and do with my cartoons, even with the cartoons that are more hard-hitting, I try and use humor, just because I think whether you're liberal or conservative, people like humor, and it really draws people in. And I feel like if you can add humor and be hard-hitting, that's a good way to, it's just a good combination. And, but sometimes you just can't use humor. This was, after 9/11, and I was at home, and our daughter, who's now 12, she was, it was 2001, so she was like a baby. Yeah, she was a baby. And so we're watching the news, CNN, and we're watching the towers go down. So I knew that day that I had to really come up with something that was the best cartoon that I could do. And so I got in and I spent all day in my office trying to come up with an idea. And so I was running out of time. I was, right on my deadline. And so I started doing the cartoon. And the head editor of the paper came in that day to see what I was doing, and I was working on it, and he looked at the drawing, and I could feel my face getting red because I was embarrassed, and so I was so down on myself. So I did the cartoon, and I brought it home to my wife, and I always show my wife first thing when I get home, and she says, "Well, I think that's a good cartoon." So this was the cartoon that I did, and you can see the planes and the plane coming in her eyes. And I think the reason that I did not like the cartoon at first was, like everyone else, I was saddened, I was angry. You had so many emotions going on, and with an editorial cartoon, you can only kind of put one thing into a cartoon, and I wanted to put everything that I was feeling into a cartoon, and I just really couldn't. But in hindsight, I think that I liked the cartoon better after I kind of thought about it for a while. And then this is the one that Sydney referred to. I knew that we were coming up in the Iraq War on the 2000th soldier that had been killed, and so I started thinking, well, what should I do about that? And so I knew we had gotten up to that point, but they hadn't announced there's 1996 they had announced. I knew they were going to be announcing the last few. And so I started thinking about it, and so the weekend before I started drawing this cartoon, and it took me a long time, and I'll show you why in a minute. But so I would have during the day I would sit at my kitchen table. And when my wife didn't need me to deal with the kids or something, I would work on the cartoon for a while, and then I'd stop, and then I'd work on it, and then so this is the cartoon, the 2,000 American soldiers killed in Iraq, and so what I was doing is I was sitting at my kitchen table, and I would make a little box, and I knew that I could fit 100 in there, names, so I'd write 100 names. And then so I eventually got it done, and then I brought it in, and then on Wednesday or whenever the names were announced, I added the last couple names. it was really a cool thing for me, this process, because I felt like a real journalist in that, first of all, they were worried that whether the names would hold up printed. So I went, the publisher at the time, who was really conservative, and a big supporter of the Iraq War. It was his idea, so we ran copies off on the press to make sure it would hold up. And then somebody noticed when I was drawing the Hispanic Latino names, I was a lot of times there are three names, like Juan Antonio Garcia, and I was just cutting out the middle name and just writing Juan Garcia. So I had all these Latino names that I needed to fix, because they said, my editor said, you have to have all the whole name in. So I had to take white out and go in and just really, so it was, but it was really a collaborative effort, and that's one of my favorite cartoons. This is on the GOP attempts to convince people that they're evolving. You see that you start out with the monkey, and then you see he's actually on a ladder. I did this one just a couple weeks ago. You know, they had whatever that guy's name, Rents Priebus or something, that he kind of gave an autopsy of the GOP efforts, and so I ended up doing this cartoon. I see dead people as they're looking in the mirror. So here's one that kind of upset some Catholics. White smoke. Either a new pope's been chosen, or they're burning incriminating documents. But now, when the new pope was chosen, you know, I don't know that much about him, but I did know that he's a very humble person, and I think that the Catholic Church has sort of lost focus on what their true mission should be, which I think should be helping the least among us. And you know, he recently ticked off some traditionalist Catholics by washing the feet of people, including women. Ooh. So, but you know, I like that he's humble. So I thought I thought I'd do a nice sort of cartoon. So. Driving shop. You know, the sequester is sort of a bummer topic, but I did this one just. Here we go. Thanks to sequester cuts, we have to attack by bus. This was Sunday's cartoon. You know, here was another. I do my cartoons on Sunday. I do them on Thursday, and so I do two cartoons on Thursday, one for Friday and one for Sunday. So I'm there late on Thursdays. So it was like 9 o'clock, and I couldn't come up with something for Sunday, and then this one just hit me, and I just whipped it out really quick. But this is it's Ebert, and you see the thumbs up there. Here's this was the one I ended up doing on the 10th anniversary of the Iraq War. So we'll never forget. It's inscribed with the names of the politicians who suckered us into it. Now, you know what's really kind of cool is, you know, the NRA a few months ago, they came out with an enemies list, and I was one of the names on the enemies list. So that was thank you. So here's this is a two-panel. In the first panel, a congressman is saying, "As a member of Congress, my goal is to do the NRA's bidding so I won't lose my job. Questions?" And then you see it's he's in an empty. This, I've done so many cartoons on this. This just so frustrates me. And this sort of is what I think is kind of humanity's approach, and especially the United States approach to global warming. It's a 4-panel cartoon. The first panel, you see little smoke detectors going off. There's a little fire going on. Then there are couples just sitting in there. And then the next panel, you see that the flames are a little higher, and the smoke detectors going off even more. And then finally, or well, almost finally, you see that the house is fully engulfed, and they're still just sitting there. Then in the final panel, they're yelling, "The house is on fire!" We're just kind of letting things, we're just letting that happen. Now, I have, Emory is sometimes in the news, and so, and so this is the one after the notorious rankings scandal occurred, which wasn't that notorious. I mean, you went from 20th to 20th, so come on. Can't you do a scandal better than that? But so here's the thing. To me, it was a big story, but I thought that the way that the school handled it was good, because see, if I was President Wagner, I might have thought to myself, you know what? Okay, we know this occurred, and we're going to make sure that it never occurs again, but do we need to even mention it? That could have gone through anyone's head, but he did the right thing and said, "Hey, it has occurred." He announced it, and came clean, and I thought that was a good thing. So I drew the Emory students all with those weird nut number one, and my couple saying they want to make extra sure their ranking's accurate. So. Now here's the deal. I don't go to that many editorial board meetings, because I don't like meeting, I like meeting people, but, sometimes they end up as the people in my cartoons, and then I get to know them, I kind of like them. And so President Wagner and Claire and Ron, yeah, they came out and we were talking about it. And then a week or two later, that whole 3/5 thing came up. And I thought, oh crap. Because see, here's the thing. First of all, as a cartoonist, I know when I'm doing cartoons, I need to show them to an editor, because I will often come up with an idea that I think is great or that really works. And then the editor will look at it and say, well, you can't do that. That would be taken the wrong way. And actually, there's been a couple of times when my cartoons, they've come out, and the symbolism overwhelms the message I was trying to get out, because I just didn't see something, and it even got past the editors. So I think that, I'm not sure, but I think that in Wagner's head, he was just thinking, well, people were compromising, and I don't know. And so anyways, so I drew President Wagner, and some students are saying, we accept 3/5 of the apology. But I think he's got a sense of humor. So now this is one I'm probably going to do it this week. I knew I was coming out to give a speech here today, and I was really trying to come up with an extra one, and I came up with this one, and the NRA, they're always trying to make any kind of gun control proposal sound like it's some sort of conspiracy, that it's a secret plan to take everyone's guns. And so I've got this kind of guy and his wife are in their house, and he's saying, "Told you the government wants them registered so they can confiscate them." I've got a government guy saying, "We're here for your 2005 Nissan Sentra." Anyway, see, don't I have a fun job though? I mean, where I get to just, and I've been doing this, when I was in elementary school, and all through, I'd go to a new school. My dad was transferred around a lot in the Northwest, so the first thing I would do is I would sit down, and even as in 4th and 5th grade, I could draw a caricature that actually looked like the teacher. So I'd draw a caricature, and then I would pass it around, and then I would have 30 new friends. So it was a great way to meet kids. Now Now listen, I will be happy to take some questions, but you know what? Claire, would you mind coming up and I could do a quick drawing of you to show you? All right.
As long as you remember, I'm not your teacher.
Okay. Now, if you just sit right there.
Okay. Sorry for those.
Yeah. Now, yeah, and what all you have to do is just sort of watch my forehead.
Okay.
This will only take an hour to 2 hours. But actually, let's see. Oh, I can actually, there, I'm just going to go like that. So when I was in Seattle, I would sit underneath the Space Needle, and for 4 years, I would, during the summers, I would draw caricatures of people underneath the Space Needle, and that's how I paid. I went to the University of Washington, and that's how I paid my way through school, was from those summers working. And so what I would do is, I would have sometimes like, a lot of customers, and so I'd be drawing very quickly, and then it would get slow again, and someone who I had drawn, just during that kind of crowd thing, they would come back to say hi. And I wouldn't recognize them because I was just so looking at the measurements in their face that I wasn't really looking at them as people because I was in such a hurry. So because there's a measurement between the eyes, between here and here, 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 all these measurements, and so it was a little bit embarrassing that I would have no recollection of meeting these people. I will remember you, however, Claire.
Oh, good.
Now, does anybody have a question for me while I'm...
Questions from the audience?
Is anything sacred?
Not really. I will... I think the children of presidents or people that are in a situation that are there by happenstance, especially if they're kids, I think that's I don't do. I've put the Obama children in cartoons, but not as the butt of a joke. When Jenna Bush and the other Barbara Bush were in the White House, they did something I can't remember. Oh, they got where they were drinking or something, and so I thought, well, I'm not going to do anything on that. But then they got caught again. So then I did some sort of cartoon on them, arguing something where they were arguing tastes great, less filling or something. I can't remember what the cartoon was, but so that's and then but when it comes to religion, I will religion is fair game. I would not put Jesus. I would not do a cartoon. You saw the Jesus cartoon I did. I wouldn't do something that was. I don't consider that insulting, and I wouldn't do anything that was really insulting towards a revered religious figure. So with those cartoons on Muhammad, I think that they shouldn't have done those. They talk about free speech and all that, but those things were designed just to tick people off, and so I try and leave religious types out of it.
Okay. I think we have a question in the back of the room.
Yeah, I was wondering if you could do a cartoon with President Wagner giving a continuing education course to presidents of universities across the United States on how to keep your job from getting boring.
Oh yeah, see, there you go. I just read in the New York Times. I didn't read the whole article, but it was talking about how, university presidents trying to adapt to the things moving quicker now and making decisions and getting out, Did you see that article? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it's got to be a challenging time.
Another question here.
Okay. Smile.
Would you do a cartoon on Mrs. Obama and your hairstyle?
Oh, the bangs. I didn't do a bang cartoon, but not for any. I don't know why it just didn't occur to me to. And sometimes there'll be things that'll be in the news, and I'll just completely miss them, and that's why I'm constantly checking the internet because I want to make sure that I'm not missing something, because oftentimes it'll be something right in front of my face. And there are various websites and blogs that I go to that I will check like literally 50 times a day just to see if I haven't missed something. And especially when it's kind of slow, when things are slow, I just get frantic. I draw this couple all the time, and they had there was a naming contest for them, and so I to me they're unnamed, but they chose as the winner of this contest Ebb and Flow for the names of the two characters, and so let's see. And so what was the question? Because that wasn't the question. It was. Who's it? Well, here's the thing. I think it's because of the dynamics in my house. I view women as a higher level of species than men, and I think the world would be in much better shape if women ran things, and so I always make her bigger. She's always the one that says the more intelligent comments. The guy always says he's the stupid one, and just the same family dynamic as in my home, and then as far as the hair goes, I don't know why I draw him smaller because he's inferior to her, and I give her an extra big hair just because I thought it was funny. We get letters to the editor from people all the time saying, "Why, you say from the right. Why don't you say from that, that left-wing loser Luckovich, so we know that he's from the left?" And so, but I'm just happy that, I'm still on the page. And actually, the right-wing cartoon, I like that because the people that, the paper can say, okay, well, look, to the right-wingers, your side is being represented. So it allows me to do whatever I want to do. And so to me, it's all a good thing.
Do the caricatures of other political cartoonists affect your caricatures?
No. You know what? I have really, at this stage of my career, I've kind of developed a style that I'm very comfortable with and that I'm happy with, and I'm not trying to. And so when I look at a politician, like when I look at Obama, I'm not thinking about anybody else's drawing. I'm just thinking, how can I? And what I'm trying to do when I do a caricature is really capture. I want to make it kind of fun, but I want to really capture a likeness. So that's my main concern. When I'm doing that. Claire? Okay. Now Claire is, there's been protests at Emory. Claire is demanding more windmills at Emory. Thank you, Claire. Oh, hey, Claire, Rose wanted to get a picture. Yeah. All right, you're welcome. Any final questions?
Yes, I think we have time for maybe 2 questions.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, you were pictured in an article one time sitting at your desk, which was a mess.
What? Oh, yeah.
My wife said, it's almost as bad as yours.
Well, it would have to be
All
pretty.
that stuff.
You know, when I'm working, and you know, when I get to I may get in around noon, but once I'm there, I don't want to leave because I'm trying to come up with an idea, and I just like being in my place. And so when I'm writing ideas, I'll just, if I don't like them or if I, you know, whatever, I'll just put them to the side, and then everything's just going all over the place, and then it ends up on the floor. And it just, you know, I recently, the only time I clean up is when I have to find something. You know, like if somebody wants to buy a cartoon or they want something, and so I'm looking for all this. So I'm cleaning up, but so anyways, it's just I just have crap everywhere, but my wife doesn't let me get away with that at home, so that's why I still can be my true self there. And they think, oh, he's the cartoonist, we'll just let him. Actually, an old publisher came in and said that they were having to pay like some $1,000 fine each year because my office was a fire hazard. But he says, but you can continue that, that's okay. And yeah. One more question.
Yeah, one more. Anyone? Yes, John.
Sidney mentioned that you had heroes as you developed your own cartooning skills. And they're just interested to hear who some were, either for artistic reasons or their, since you'd like to think that what you're doing is portraying what is right, their viewpoints, a combination.
Right. You know, I have a number. The guy whose work I grew up trying to copy and really, I used to have a Mad magazine open, and I used to buy those. They were like called Photo Play or some kind of movie magazine. Remember from way back? And so there would be like pictures of Paul Newman in them or something. And so I'd have a photo of Paul Newman, and I'd have my Mad magazine open, and I'd try to draw like Mort Drucker did. He's a former Mad magazine cartoonist, so he was just an excellent artist. I'm also, one of my heroes is Herb Block, who used to be at the Washington Post. He was there for like 51 years. His cartoons were not humorous. They were very hard-hitting. He labeled a lot of things, but he just had such a passion, and he was just a great guy. Charles Schultz is another guy who I got to know in the last few years of his life, and he was a very interesting person. I admired him because so many other cartoonists, after they become very successful, especially comic strip artists, they have others assisting them. He never did. He did everything himself, and all the way until the end. And he was actually a very interesting person because the way that the dialogue in Peanuts is, it's kind of sing-songy just a little bit. He kind of talked like that. I mean, he's really interesting. And he was kind of he was such an icon that when you'd see him at the cartoonist conventions, there weren't a lot of people that would really approach him because he was this god almost. And I had done a cartoon. I had drawn the Peanuts characters as baseball players, and so I was standing next to Schultz once, and he said, well, Mike, you drew the hats on the characters incorrectly. And I said, well, yeah, I know, I just wanted to bother you. And so I could kind of tease him a little bit, and he liked that. And so I got to know him and have some fun with him at the end there. So those are probably my and then as far as editorial cartooning, the main guy for me forever is Jeff McNelly, who drew for the Chicago Tribune. He was originally with the Richmond Times-Dispatch. He also did the Shoe comic strip. Just a beautiful artist, and that guy could draw. He was so good, and his ideas were great. So all those people were favorites of mine. Well, thank you, everyone. Great questions.
The preceding program is copyrighted by Emory University.